Hey everybody out there, you're tuned in to 91.8 The Fan. This is Kana and you're in my corner, and I'm here with my special guest. I've talked about him all day, so if you forgot who he was, well, he's here to tell you.
Hi, this is HBI2K. I did Berserk Abridged, Gantz Abridged, and Escaflowne Abridged on YouTube, plus a whole bunch of other weird random stuff at one point or another. And you probably also know me from Team 4 Star. I do Dr. Briefs, Nail, Bubbles, and a few other miscellaneous character voices for Dragon Ball Z Abridged.
I have to say, sadly, we don't have anyone here to make you a sandwich.
Oh, no sandwich.
No, I'm sorry. I do have Dr. Pepper. I will share my Dr. Pepper with you, however. I am kind of curious, though, because you've had so much experience, doing so many different series. How did you originally get involved with abridging?
Well, it was a couple different factors all came together. First of all, I had a shiny new computer at the time, which is now defunct and to my right with all the lights off, which I just built and realized that for the first time in years I had the capability to do some video editing, so I wanted to play with that. So it was either that or do an AMV. And I was also looking for a way to practice my writing. I'd been doodling around with a novel for since college, and it wasn't going anywhere. I've come to the realization that I just do not have the patience for long-form writing. So I wanted something that that had a framework that would force me to keep working on a regular basis. So when I got deeply involved in watching all the back episodes of Little Karibo's Yu-Gi-Oh! Abridged, which is how most of us got the idea, I thought, hey, I can't do this as well, but I can do this. Sure.
And so that's how the fun experiment started. And how did you decide which anime you were going to start with?
Pretty much I just walked up to my DVD shelf and looked at all the series that I had on hand. So that narrowed it down to Berserk, Escaflowne, Big O, Cowboy Bebop. I think that was about it. I knew I wanted to do something short, something 13 to 26 episodes. I didn't think I'd have the patience to do a long runner like Naruto or Yu-Gi-Oh!, which were the two big ones on the scene at the time. Little did I know I'd do 3 of those in a row, but whatever. So I didn't want to do Escaflowne because at the time I didn't know any female voice actresses who I could tap to do the lady voices, and as anybody who's heard my horrible lady voice knows, there was no way that I could do all the female characters that show would have demanded. Cowboy Bebop was too perfect to touch. So that left Big O and Berserk. Big O I ruled out because I thought it would be too episodic. It would be too hard to have any semblance of a plot while still working the comedy in there. So that pretty much left Berserk, but I was happy with Berserk because at the time I thought, well, the popular stuff like Naruto, if Vegeta and Masako hadn't done that, somebody would have come along and abridged that. But who in the world other than me would abridge Berserk? Of course, that was in a different time. Now you can't say that about anything. Everything will be abridged by somebody sooner or later.
That's true, but at the same time, it kind of set you out from the few other abridgers out there on the market. I guess you could call it a market, maybe internet highway. That might be more better term. I am a little bit curious, though. Was there any pre-planning? Like, did you sit down and write a script? Did you watch an episode and think, oh, that's funny? How did you plan that out?
Well, first I just sat down and watched through the whole anime from start to finish, which wasn't anything special because I do that every few years with Berserk anyway, because it's one of my very favorites. But not only did I not plan out pretty much anything ahead of time, I didn't even write scripts for Berserk. I would literally sit down, play the episode, watch a scene, go back, make up the dialogue as I went along, record a few lines, edit it, watch the next scene, and do that way. That was the advantage to working solo. I couldn't really swing that as easily when I had other voice actors to work with who I needed to furnish scripts for.
And now I'm curious a little bit. You're probably very excited for the Berserk movie. Have you heard about that?
I have. Yeah, I am stoked. And it's also mysterious and vague still. For those who don't know, yeah, they just announced a theatrical Berserk movie for 2011 as the beginning of a project, air quotes, which will tell the entire story of Berserk. Now, whether that means more theatrical sequels or if that's leading from the movie into another TV series or maybe a series of OVAs is anybody's guess, unless you know something I don't.
I don't. You described it perfectly, actually.
Okay, so yeah, obviously I am super stoked because even if it's just the one movie and that's it, that's still more Berserk animation than we had yesterday. So, yay!
Well, if
fanboy.
That's cool. We're all geeks here. If you got the chance, would you think about maybe abridging the movie or any other spin-offs that might come about if the movie gets popular enough?
I would have to think about it for about 2 seconds.
It's like, yes. So you're definitely that. Would you say that's one of your favorite animes out there?
It's one of my favorite anime. There are a few others that I might rank above it, but it is easily my favorite manga, no question. The manga is just amazing.
That'd be an interesting manga bridge. Maybe one day somebody will find the technology to make lip flaps move. Who knows? Anything's possible. I was a little bit. I don't know much about GANs personally, but I was curious. Did that come before your involvement with Team 4-Star, or was that after?
That was before. I think. Actually, now that I think about it, they might have started around the same time. I would have to look it up. But it was roughly the same time that I was doing my first voice for Team 4-Star, Farmer with Shotgun.
I don't know why, but everybody imitated that in our staff channel for about the next week. That was like the line of that episode, if I remember correctly.
I was originally going way more subtle with that voice. That's one of the things that I love about working with Team 4-Star is that usually I have Kaiser to direct me, and he pulls me in vastly different directions vocally than I would ever go on my own. I was going to try to make it a more realistic, less cartoonish voice, and he just kept saying, no, more Yosemite Sam, come on.
So would you say that working with other people brings out different aspect of your work and your talent?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Anybody who's listened to much of my solo stuff knows that I have a pretty consistent stable of little incidental voices that repeat all the time. And left to my own devices, that's all I would ever have. But anytime I'm on with, especially Kaiser, he's able to tweak me a little bit this way and a little bit that way, and draw voices out of me that I never would have had by myself.
That's kind of an interesting work ethic, despite the guys that not in an offensive way, that you guys aren't technically professional voice actors, like the big leagues. You still have the system to where, a director can guide you and sort of lead you in the way you need to go.
Oh, yeah, and I mean, that is the wonderful thing about technology. Obviously, the internet and YouTube have given us a means of distribution that we never would have had back in the old, swapping fan sub days of anime. But also the means of production, I mean, we're having this interview on Skype right now. That's been a godsend. Without that, it would have been a lot more difficult for people who aren't based physically close to one another. I know that I believe the Team Databayo guys live close to one another and know each other in real life. Also Takahata and brain fart. His friend on G Gundam, Cheeseman, and Cheeseman are both based out of Vancouver, so they can get together physically when they work together. But for most of us, yeah, that's how it is. You get on Skype, you fire up the microphone, and that's how you do it.
I can understand that. Actually, we wouldn't, without the technology today, we wouldn't have as many staff as we do. We have staff all the way in like Canada and Florida and the UK and Australia, and it's like we never would have met unless it was for the internet. So thank you, internet, for being born. We love you.
Yay. And it is a bummer because I don't get to see those guys nearly as often as I would like, and there are some of them that I haven't gotten to meet in person yet. Vegeta 3986, come to cons. What's wrong with you?
But you have gotten to see them at cons, though. That's the big thing. Especially, I remember Youmacon being the big one where a lot of Team 4-Star met.
Yeah, and I don't get to do that stuff nearly as often as I would like either. I went to the big con up in Vancouver, Anime Evolution, last fall, and that was really the first and so far the only time that I've gotten to meet most of those guys in person.
That must have been a bunch of fun. Was there any memorable moments off the top of your head you can think of?
Oh, it was amazing. The whole thing. They set us up in this because the thing took place on a college campus, which was closed down for the summer. So they set us up in this hotel, which is really just a converted dorm room. So it definitely called back to college days, crazy wild parties in the common room and.
Oh, that actually sounds like a bunch of fun. You guys must have either partied, or at the end of it you just fell asleep.
Yeah, a lot of both.
I remember my first big convention. It's like we ran like the whole convention, you know, your energy's on high, and then we had to get an extra day at the hotel. None of us could get up. We were so dead. It was so bad. But are there any conventions that you're looking forward to in 2011?
Nothing definite. My lady friend and I are trying to move, so that's going to take up a largish amount of our budget and time. So I'm not sure how much ability we'll have to get out of town for vacation purposes. Although, depending on how things work out, one of the places we're looking at moving is San Diego. Do they have any big cons there? Do you know? I'm not sure.
Yeah, they have FanimeCon, Anime Expo, and then you can come to Anime Vegas, which is my favorite con.
Yeah.
But for everybody out there listening, we're going to take a very short break, but when we come back, our super special, awesome guest, who's not a secret anymore, will still be here. So keep it tuned to 91.8 The Fan, everything you want and nothing you don't.
You need to cry. Let's brainstorm. I could hit you over the head with a wrench, or I could stab you in the gut with the knife. Knife wrench! Practical and safe.
Are you tired of crappy ideas that don't work? So are we. So we invented 918 The Fan. 918 The Fan. Everything you want to hear, nothing you don't.
Knife wrench! For kids.
Hey everybody out there, you're tuned in to 91.8 The Fan. I'm still with my special guest, and we actually realized a huge plot point of this interview that I forgot to bring up. But sadly, your YouTube has been taken down. Can you give us any details on that?
Not much to tell. Something really similar just happened to Little Karibo in the last couple of days, and he got his back, so I'm hopeful. But as far as I can tell, it was just, one of those footage sniffing robots that large copyright holding companies use to suss out who's using their stuff. But unfortunately, robots don't have yet, Skynet, don't have the ability to view context and see whether your use of the copyright is fair use or not, which, not to get into legalese, but I submitted a DMCA counter notice. It'll probably be back up within a couple of days, so I'm not super worried yet. It's an inconvenience, but whatever. Yeah,
I think the longest it usually takes is about 10 to 14 days if you send the official one where it's we cannot be your lawyer.
Yeah.
We've had the same trouble too because we have a new show that called iStock, and we posted on YouTube, and it's our YouTube account has been banned 7 times. Fun stuff. Well,
and I don't know if you've kept up with the news about the recent Library of Congress DMCA exception for transformative works, but it's too lengthy to go into here, but get on to electronicfrontierfoundation.org and look into their coverage on it. But the general gist is that transformative works like Abridged series now have stronger legal protection than they did last year. So it's definitely exciting new times.
Oh, I've never heard of that. That's something I'm extensively interested in. I have to pick your brain afterwards to find out more about that.
Yeah, EFF.org, I think. Google it, whatever, you'll find out.
All right. And now, where else can the loyal listeners stalk you?
So for right now, the best place is my Twitter, at HBI2K. That's where you'll get any new news about the status of my YouTube account. Normally I'd say youtube.com/HBI2K, but obviously that's not a very good option right now.
And do you have an official site, or do you Facebook or anything like that?
I don't have an official site. Obviously, I'm with Team 4-Star, and all my work with them is available on their website. I do have a Facebook, but that's for personal use. I don't. That's for my family. I
understand. You kind of gotta separate yourself from some of the crazies on the internet. I'm looking at you in the back. I was wondering, though, do you have anything that you're working on for 2011? Any future projects?
Well, a lot of it depends on how soon what sort of footage becomes available. I do have one project which I don't like to announce things too far in advance. I always say that expectations are the enemy of enjoyment.
Right, I understand.
So I do have one ongoing project that was going to be my next project, and things got a little wonky, and I'm not sure whether it'll be the next thing I do yet. I might work in a couple of small side projects beforehand. But anybody who's followed my stuff can pretty easily connect the dots. You know, new Berserk movie coming out, live-action Gantz movie coming out in just about a week here, I think. January 20th? A couple weeks.
I actually don't know that date off the top of my head. I should, but I don't.
I believe it's January 20th in the U.S.
And so, before I get into our tradition, because we have one of those here, is there anything special you want to say to the listeners out there?
Hi.
But that could be special in its own right. Was there anything else, or would you like to instead participate in a 91.8 The Fan tradition?
The unexamined life is not worth living. There you go. There's your word of wisdom for the day. Okay, now we can move on.
We generally ask everybody who comes on to the station if they'd be willing to do a radio bump for us.
Oh, sure.
And we do it live on air, so in case you mess up, everybody gets to hear it.
Hooray.
But we basically ask if you'd be willing to say, my name is, you insert your name, I do this, you insert what you do, and you're tuned into 91.8 The Fan.
Sure. All right. This is HBI2K, a.k.a. Farmer with Shotgun, and you're listening to 91.8 The Fan. I can do a clean take of that without the stuttering if you want.
Sure, if you'd be willing to, that'd be really cool.
Sure.
As soon as the giggles get out of the system.
This is HBI2K, a.k.a. Farmer with Shotgun, and you're listening to 91.8 The Fan. Yeehaw!
I love it. That's my new favorite bump. So for everybody out there, if you missed any of this interview, we're going to post it up a little bit later on the site, so you want to keep it tuned to 91.8 The Fan, and thank you very much for being on the show today. It was a lot of fun.
Oh, thank you for having me.
And for everybody out there, keep it tuned to your favorite station, or else I will come after you with a death hammer, which would be bad. Anyway, coming up next is 12012 and their song Cyclone.